back, everyone. It's your favorite host coming back, unfortunately. I do have a keyboard update, actually. Second. Yeah, I do have a keyboard update. I found out what was happening. It was not my left alt key, but my right alt key was having a problem. Why? I don't know. I've never pressed it in my entire life, but that's the way it works. Regardless, I believe this game is run on console, so we won't be having any keyboard issues this time around. So, take it away!
Alright, hello everybody, I'm Aeshmah. I've also been running Samurai Jack just a couple days past where I told you that I would be back with a run of another very beautiful game. It is Muramasa. This game originally released in 2009 on the Wii. However, today we are gonna be playing the Rebirth, well not remake but the port to the PlayStation Vita played on a PlayStation TV. It released in 2013, so you know it's a little bit on the older side, but it is still a very gorgeous game regardless. Anyway, since we will have a lot of time to talk about the run in general during it, why don't we just go ahead and get this show on the road. We will be playing on Legend, which is the easiest difficulty setting of the game, and we will be playing as Momohime, hence the any percent Momohime category that we're going to do. So, if everybody is ready on the timer and everything, let's get this run going in 3, 2, 1, go! Alright, first thing that is gonna happen, because we selected the easiest difficulty setting, the game wants to give us some tutorials, which we're not gonna do because I know the game, thank you very much. Then I will go to my settings and actually change some things around because I do not like the original button layout of the game, and now we are good to go. And if you're not already taken aback by the absolute beauty that is on screen right now, well, I don't know what to tell you, because if you don't think this game looks great, you might need to get your eyes checked. Because remember, this released in 2009 on the Wii. Yes, it absolutely did that. Anyway, you can think of the game as a kind of Metroidvania game, I want to say. This thought actually only occurred to me recently because we are, playing a 2D side-scroller. We need to get certain weapons in order to progress in the game. So, we have the whole leveling up, killing enemies, collecting items thing going on, which basically means we're playing a Metroidvania nowadays, doesn't it? So, what is this run about? Well, it is a lot of RNG that will be happening all throughout the run. Like, we have to manage our resources, our souls, spirits, and our money pretty carefully because we need to get some, new weapons at certain points. We need to buy items to even be able to make it through some of the harder fights later on. Or basically skip them, rather. And already some things that I do not want to see happened here because you got a lot of healing pellet drops. Because interestingly enough, while we are still in the prologue right here, right now, if I kill these ninja enemies, they can drop healing pellets. However, all throughout the rest of the run, they can drop smoke bombs instead. And I would rather have those smoke bombs than the healing pellets. So let's hope RNG can be a little bit kind here. Another thing is, like I said, RNG is king in this run is because on the one hand, we do not want to fight too many random battles along the way. But on the other hand, we do want to fight some of them to level up and get money and all the other things. But we have absolutely no control over that. Like, none whatsoever. Some encounters just happen or they won't happen. It is random which enemies we face, so everything is basically just up to chance, which is why you can lose or save a lot of time during the run. And with that out of the way, we are very fast approaching the first boss fight of the game, which is going to be the Blue Monk. Now, there's basically no finesse or whatsoever going on during that fight. He's just a big old punching bag that we have to get through. After we get rid of another round of ninjas. Which is actually, well, I want to say kinda bad because we've had a lot of fights during this first section of the run already. But like I said, it is what it is. Alright, and here we can advance to the first boss fight. Before I do so though, and this will repeat all throughout the run, you always go through these little story gates in order to trigger a little story section here. Then you have to wander around, talk to all the people on the plane. And once you do that, we will have another short story section, and then the boss fight will commence. And I will get into the story in just a little bit. But first of all, let's talk to everybody here, get to the story section, and then we'll get into our boss fight. Like I said, there isn't a lot to take care of here. It's just a big old punching bag. So what we try to do here is we will hit it a couple times and then cancel our combo with a slide attack, which actually does about as much damage as the normal combo finisher would do. However, it comes out a little bit quicker, and that is why we actually have increased DPS during that attack compared to the normal combo finisher. So it basically increases our DPS. We also will have the special attack of our sword, which makes it so that we teleport behind him, so we can just go ahead and dodge his attacks, so we do not get hit, which is always nice to do. Now we do have to wait for his body drops. If he decides to do that, he would automatically break my weapon, which would be very, very bad. I do not want that to happen, which is why I will, stop my assault just a little bit in order for him to land safely on the ground before I resume my attacks. And he just keeps doing it, the big old bastard. Now while this is going on, there is a lot of on-screen information that you can parse. Like in the upper left corner you can see my life bar, which is represented by the numbers and the candle above it, as well as the level that I'm currently at. So at the moment we are level 2. We want to reach about level 20 at the end of this run, all things considered. In the top middle you see the weapons that I have equipped. So you can equip up to 3 different swords, and you can change between those at any time during a fight. So at the moment I have my first sword equipped, and you can see it has the Misty Slash special ability, which is the one that I was talking about earlier, where we can teleport behind the enemy. Every time I use this special ability, the bar beneath where it reads Misty Slash will decrease. That is the durability of this weapon. Now not only will it decrease by using the special attack, it will also decrease if I block attacks with this particular weapon. Should the bar completely run out, the weapon will break, and I will deal heavily reduced damage if I use that sword. So that is the perfect opportunity to switch to one of your other weapons in order to still be able to deal the maximum damage. However, there's a bit of a caveat with that concerning the boss fights, because we actually use the glitch during the boss fights to increase our weapon damage. Now, as I said earlier, we can equip up to 3 swords. All of these swords have varying power levels, so those swords that we get on later in the game will have more attack power than the weapons we have at the start of the run, obviously. However, if you start a boss fight, you will always be forced to have your first sword in the menu up there equipped. However, if you select another sword before you actually start the boss fight, you will still enter the fight with your first sword equipped. However, it will have the attack property of the sword that you had selected before entering the boss fight. And that is how we can kind of glitch over the power of later swords onto some weaker swords, which might be better because they have, better special abilities or other passives. I hope that kind of makes sense. I mean, it should. You will see it, happen at the end of every act. But yeah, that was the first boss fight. Like I said, it's just a big old punching bag there. You just have to watch out for his attacks just a little bit. But other than that, not a lot going on there. And with that, we now have our first special sword. There are a total of 108 swords that you can collect/craft during the course of the game. However, you won't be able to get all of them during your first run through, because if you paid attention before you started the run, you have the option to choose between 2 characters, Momohime, who we are playing as, and Kitsune. And the thing with those is that, first of all, you are supposed to, play through the game with either one of them. And once you have finished the first story arc, you can then go back to the other character and finish that character's first story arc. You get a special sword at the end of each of them, and once you've finished the first story of both characters, actually both can use all the swords that you have collected so far. Up until that point, you know, they are limited through the swords that they have crafted / collected so far. And with that particular sword, you can go back to the final boss and then get the second ending. And you get another special sword there, and then you can proceed to get the third endings for all the characters. However, we're not going to do any of that. We're just, you know, good with getting the first ending for Momohime, because it will already take like 1.5 hours to get there. If you were to go and make this a quote-unquote 100% run, it will take multiple hours, because this game is pretty chunky. Especially if you go for the second or even third endings. Anyway, back to the run at hand. Now that we got the sword from the Blue Monk, we were able to slash down that red barrier that we have just passed. And that, again, is a pattern that you will see repeating during the course of the run, because we always need to get these special swords that we can only get from the bosses in order to slash down these colored barriers in order to proceed with the game. He will pick up our first smoke bomb. Now, smoke bombs are very important items during the course of the run, because they allow us to instantly escape from a battle. There is no other way, once you are in a fight, to escape from it but using a smoke bomb. And we will definitely need them later on in the game when we get to some more strong enemies that we might not be able to take, or they will just take a lot of time to get through. Now, we do make a save here. That is not just for show. We do need to make that save because we actually can teleport to the shrines we saved at a little bit later in the game. And since that saves a lot of backtracking time, we will make a couple of strategic saves throughout the game. They will come here by the Epicurean arts and a lot of cabbages, because this game also has a cooking system. Whenever you cook a food, you get a special buff for a little while. The cabbage stew, which we just bought, will make it so that our strength increases, which basically means we will hit harder with our weapon. So we go into the next area, and we will actually go ahead and cook some cabbage stew. And I mean, just, you know, go ahead and look at this. If this doesn't make you hungry, I don't know what will. Also, we have a forge on the go. This is Muramasa. He is able to forge all those weapons that we will get and be able to equip. This is a very elaborate, you know, kind of skill tree, because it has all the 108 blades on it. And now we will go ahead and equip these Lesser Origins, the weapon we got from the Blue Monk, and the Peony Blade, which we just forged. Now, the Peony Blade will basically stay on all throughout the rest of the game, because it has a passive ability that increases our damage by 5% by just having it equipped, which is pretty nice. And since we won't need a lot of different swords anyway, we can just let that on. Now, this is actually a fight that you do not want to get into, because it takes a long while to get through. But I don't want to waste my smoke bomb on it, so I'm just going to take this fight, even though it'll last me quite a bit of time here. That we are onto this area where we will collect bronze mirror. These are the teleporting items which I alluded to earlier. We will buy 2 more and a couple more smoke bombs, and with that we are on our way to the second boss already. Now, story-wise, what's actually going on here? So I said earlier that we are playing as Momohime, who is a Japanese princess. However, we are technically actually not really playing as her, because before the game even started, a sword master, or rather an evil sword master / assassin, I want to say, who was on the brink of dying. He was trying to transfer his soul into the body of another swordsman. That swordsman happened to be Momohime's future husband-to-be. And Jinkaro, which is the name of the evil swordmaster, didn't account for Momohime. So Momohime basically jumped in front of Yuki Nojo, her future husband-to-be, and that is why Jinkaro's soul got basically transferred into Momohime's body. So in factuality, we are playing as Jinkaro inhabiting Momohime's body right here. However, during that process, a little kerfuffle started, and Rankai, a monk, stole Momohime's soul. So in the first act, Jinkaro was looking and fighting the Blue Monk in order to retrieve Momohime's soul, because her body is going to wither away without her soul inhabiting it. And that is why we are now looking basically for Momohime's soul at the moment, to make sure that, you know, our body can, you know, survive for a little while longer, because we do want to be alive, you know. So it's a nice thing to do. And obviously, you know, Jinkuro wanted to inhabit another body, not the body of a princess, because why would he want to do that? And, you know, he wants to get out of the body. But for now, we just have to find that soul so we don't inadvertently die sooner than expected. Okay, we're getting a lot of fights on the way, which is not the best thing to happen. But like I said, it is complete RNG when fights will happen, which animals you will face, and you can just save or lose time a lot to that. In the meantime, you know, just marvel at the art and at the soundtrack, because it's just a blast to play and look at. Like, even if you're not playing it, just looking at basically this picture in motion, I mean, you know, should be good for all of you. Also, another thing that I totally forgot to mention, I'm just such a bad marathon runner. I like haikus. And I hope you do too, because whenever you know, donate and make your donation comment a haiku, I'll actually go ahead and match that donation after this run. We actually did the same thing during Samurai Jack, and I haven't donated that amount yet because I was waiting for this run to finish. So, you know, you guys have a little bit more than an hour to go ahead and compose your own haiku, maybe look up the internet, and then go ahead and donate, because we're doing this for a worthy cause. So, Rena, if you want to talk about what we are collecting money for or anything else, this might be the opportunity to do exactly that.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Unfortunately, we don't have any donations, though I imagine that will change soon as the haikus start coming in. And if you do want to donate, do make sure that you're putting it towards one of the many incentives that is coming up. In fact, right after this run, we have the glitch exhibition for Superliminal, which currently is short about $160. While I know that is a lot to make up in a short amount of time, with some haiku donation matching, I imagine we can get this together within the allotted time. So make sure to keep those donations rolling in, and I want to be reading some wonderful haikus, alright, fellas?
Speaking of Superliminal, like, that game is already pretty trippy without any glitches, I want to say, so watching a glitch exhibition for that is just gonna be absolutely mind-blowing. In the meantime, we have located Ronkai. It's this dude right here who holds Momohime's soul captive, so to speak. And we don't want that. However, we have to deal with the second boss of the game before we can retrieve the soul. This is one Yudo, and he's a bit of a prick. Like, he is this giant flaming wheel that can just, absolutely destroy you if he wants to. Ideally, you want to juggle him in the air just a little bit. Sadly, I failed that, because I was attacking in the wrong direction. So we just have to go ahead and deal with that a little bit else. Oh, well, he's crushing down. That's pretty good. I want to do the most of your attacks while he's still on the ground, because that is when we can do our combo cancel, as we did earlier against the Black Monk. Most of the time he will be in the air though, so we have to account for that. Also, he will leave a lot of flames along the ground, and it is in your best interest to try and extinguish those by just attacking them violently, because if there are too many flames on the ground, he will start doing more powerful attacks, and you do not want to see those. So yeah, this will just take a little while to get through, because all the bosses in this game have just massive HP pools, as you can see at the bottom of the screen there. Because not only do you have to deplete the big health bar, and whenever you deplete the big health bar, it will get recharged from the smaller one on top of it. So, you know, every boss has multiple health bars that you have to get through, and it can take a couple minutes to defeat each and every boss in this game. So they are basically more endurance tests, I want to say, than actual, you know, hard encounters in a way.
So yeah, I do have a question about the combat. Do you
Go
know if
ahead.
this game shares any developers with the Marvel vs. Marvel vs. It's escaping me. Capcom,
Marvel vs.
yes.
Capcom? I
Yeah,
don't think so.
sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not
I
completely
can-
sure, but I don't think so. Because this
Oh,
game
wow.
was developed by Vanillaware, so if you know games like, Odin's Sphere, Dragon's Crown, or recently 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, it is by those guys. So, I mean, you
these more
could
games I'm going
probably
to have to
tell
buy?
by the art, but I don't think they do any fighting games or whatever.
Very interesting. I'm actually really liking the combat system. The combos are really cool. I'm here for it. I might have to get this game.
Oh, you totally should. Like I said, you can even get it on the Wii if you wanted to.
That I do actually own that system.
See? Now you just have to find a copy of it.
That is the issue at hand, isn't it?
There's always something. But yeah, that was the second boss of the game. We now have recovered Momohime's soul. So we can actually, live a little bit longer. But like I said, Jinkaro doesn't exactly want to keep living in Momohime's body. He would rather inhabit the body of a true swordsman. So we need to find Jinkaro's original sword. And as far as we know, it is currently in the possession of Momohime's husband-to-be. So we have to go and find Yukinojo. And maybe he will be able to give us that sword. Can you guys please just die? Thank you. Speaking of which, I should craft another weapon. It's going to be the Water Witch Blade. This is another very important blade that we will be using for quite a while. Because the passive ability of the Water Witch Blade makes it so that we get more money at the end of encounters. And since we are hard pressed for money during all throughout the run, we kind of want to have that particular weapon equipped for as long as we can. Sadly missed this enemy over here. It's gonna be fine. Because like I said earlier, later on in the game, especially in chapter 6 and 7, we need about 6 smoke bomb each to be able to go through those chapters really, really quickly. And one smoke bomb costs 80 mon. Now you get about between, I think, 1 to 3 mon per enemy that you defeat. And, accumulating 80 mon isn't exactly that easy, as you can well imagine. So we are relying just a little bit on the enemies, especially the ninja enemies that we can encounter throughout the game, to drop us a smoke bomb or two. Just to make the run a little bit safer if we can. Again, we're not going to save here because we do want to teleport back to where we just came from after the next boss fight. So basically every single save that I will be doing throughout the game is strategically placed. They are not random. You do want to save at the specific locations where I save and when I do it. So there is no wiggle room when it comes to that. Which is also fine, because if you die, you would just, restart at the screen you were at. So it's not that bad of a deal, should you die. Now, normally I would be running this game in Fury mode. Fury mode makes it so that you only have 1 HP even if you level up, which makes the run a little bit more exciting, but not exactly marathon safe. However, this sounds way worse than it actually is, because keep in mind that your swords have health bars of their own, so to speak. As we see at the top middle, as I explained earlier, that bar that you see under the Chaos Roar is basically the durability of the sword. And that does not get reduced on fewer difficulty. It's only your health your character's health. So as long as you're blocking a lot, you are basically safe. It's only when your sword breaks that you immediately die. So you're basically more concerned about the health of your sword than your own health in a way. Which is pretty interesting, I want to say. Cooking some more cabbage stew to prolong the duration on that buff. And in this screen, we're going to go ahead and pick up a Tengu mask. That is an accessory that we can equip, and this particular accessory increases our strength and our vitality. Now, the reason why we want that is not only do we get new blades or want to equip new blades, but we also need a certain amount of strength and vitality to even be able to equip better swords. And since this is a speedrun, we're not going to do a lot of fights. We're not gonna, grind levels, which is basically the only way to increase our strength and vitality. We are reliant on at least some accessories to boost those, so we can go ahead and equip some better weapons. Because after a short while, the starting weapons are not going to do enough damage to be able to go through the battles quickly anymore. For obvious reasons, I want to say. So yes, even on Fury difficulty, where you only ever will have 1 HP, you do want to go ahead and level up. So we're already in the quote-unquote boss area of the third act. So at the end of this, we will face Yukinojo, who is obviously gonna be the boss of this chapter. I mean, who else would it be? Now, the whetstones that we pick up, you can actually use those during fights to replenish the durability of your swords. So, you can basically think of them as health items, especially if you would be playing on Fury difficulty. And another one of these encounters. Since this is a marathon run, I would rather, make it a little bit safer. So I'm gonna take this fight again, even though I have 4 smoke bombs at the moment. Because again, this is a pretty slow encounter to get through, because you can only damage these ghosts by repelling their flames back at them. It takes a lot of time to get through. And since I don't know if I will be able to get enough smoke bombs for chapter 6 and 7, as I explained earlier, I would rather be saving my smoke bombs for now and have them later. Because you absolutely do not want to fight the big Onis in chapters 6 and 7 if you can help it. Alright, well, we're just making our way over to the boss. Rena, if you have anything to plug, that would be a good time.
Sure, I could do a little bit of a plug for you. We are supported by Bling Game, an independent game developer based in Shenzhen, China. They're nearly ready to release their Metroidvania-inspired retro action platformer Hack. Set in a apocalyptic wasteland, you'll need to develop your skills, fight mysterious organizations, solve mysteries, and explore the wasteland in order to survive and embrace the world's ultimate secret. Visit their Steam page and join their Discord for more information on how to join the early access beta now. Of course, unfortunately, we don't have any donations just yet. Keep them coming. I want to see some haikus. I want to mess up reading them. If you want to make me... that would be your chance.
Oh. I always forget to equip the Tango Mask at this point. But yeah, we are now off to face our third boss, which, as I explained earlier, is going to be Yukinojo, Momohime's future husband-to-be, because apparently he has the sword that we need to switch Jinkuro's soul to another body. However, obviously he's not gonna give up that sword willingly. So we have to teach that guy a lesson. Now, Jinkuro is basically a standard samurai enemy, just, beefed up a little bit. Samurai enemies have their own swords to block your attacks with, and just as with us, our goal here is to basically break his sword so we can actually go ahead and damage him, because as long as he has a sword out, he will block each and every one of our attacks. And then we can do some nice air juggling here to rack up the damage. But after a while, he will obviously repair his sword or grab a new one. I have no idea how that works. So we have to go and break it again. And this pattern will basically just continue on until he is dead.
Since that pattern is going to be going on for a little bit, I'm sure you'll be wonderful to hear that we do in fact have a new donation, $10, from Manix86, who says, Momohime, yay! We have a new donation. And that's all going to the glitch exhibition, so thank you very much. Every single dollar counts. We very much appreciate every donation. Thank you very much.
Definitely want to help those puppies behind bars, and you want to hear some haikus, and you also definitely want to see that glitz exhibition. So, you know, get to donating, guys. We also have some pretty great prizes as far as I'm aware. Right, Reno?
We do! Let's get that read going. We have plenty of wonderful prizes. You get put in the running for all of them if you donate $30. However, I know that is a bit of a steep price, so there are plenty of $5 and $10 prizes that you can be put up for, including a few games, like Yoku's Island Express.
Yoku's Island Express was actually featured earlier during this marathon, so, you know, if you want to watch that game, how it plays out before you buy, you can definitely do that by just watching some of the worlds of Indiethon.
Get a little demo trailer. And then you can go get the game.
Especially if you're into pinball games.
I will admit to actually being a pretty big pinball fan myself. I live pretty close to the Pinball Hall of Fame, so that's kind of a given.
Huh.
So I'm actually quite excited to see Yoku's Island Express.
I didn't even know such a thing existed. Then again, I basically shouldn't be surprised by it, right? Alright, we are slowly getting to the end of this fight. Like I said, all the bosses in this game, they are very tanky.
Yeah, you weren't kidding. You could probably have an entire conversation.
Done with the... he just... Wait, I guess we can. Okay, there we go.
There we go.
A little bit unfortunate that he was able to get out a new blade just before we were able to kill him. So anyway, we defeated Yukinojo, and he's all like, oh, sorry, yeah, I had that weapon that you were looking for, but I kinda left it at home. So, yeah, we now have to go ahead and, in the next couple chapters, go and find it where he left it. However, Jinkuro was kinda like, oh, I'm gonna kill you, you bastard, and Momohime once again forced Jinkuro out of her body in order to spare Yukinojo. However, plot twist, Yukinojo admits that he only wanted to marry Momohime to ruin her clan because her family disobeyed the shogun a little bit earlier. So, you know, he's not exactly a nice guy, I want to say. Don't marry people who only want to take advantage of you, people. That is just wrong. But yeah, now we are in Act 4. And like I said, we are now on our way to Yukinojo's hometown, so to speak, to retrieve the soul swapping blade, or whatever the hell it's called again. However, some monks are blocking the path, so in order to bypass them, we now have to climb this snowy ice mountain, because there's a secret passageway there that we can use in order to bypass them. So that will be the goal of this act of the game. Just for reference, we are in the 4th act. The game has a total of 8, so after this one we are about halfway through the run already. But first things first, we have to make our way through the 4th act. Now I always like to see ninjas, because as I explained earlier, they have a chance to drop some smoke bombs for me. Sadly, these guys are not cooperating. It is a very small chance, but it saves me about 80 mon, which again is a lot. So we're gonna go here, buy 2 bronze mirrors and a couple more smoke bombs. And we are on our way. I guess I should be able to fight you. Again, I should just use a smoke bomb for the tango fights because like those take a while to get through, but I'm being very conservative with my smoke bombs at the moment because I absolutely do not want to get stuck in chapter 6 or 7. That would be really brutal. Because, you know, fighting these tango might lose you, I don't know, 3 seconds or something. If you were to fight the Oni in chapter 6 and 7, you would lose minutes. And that is just not fun. A lot of samurai too. Like I said, these are the samurai enemies, basically less tanky versions of Yukinojo. Because as you see, it took us minutes to cut on Yukinojo, whereas these samurai are a little bit easier to deal with, for sure. Now, another thing that I want to be on the lookout here are pheasants, because not only do you face samurai and ninja and tango and whatnot, sometimes you also just face some animals. And the nice thing about fighting... Oh, see, there we go with a smoke bomb drop. Very nice. That is much appreciated. If you kill animals, you would actually, well, get their bodies, so to speak, as an item. And not only can you cook stuff like cabbage stew, you can obviously also cook meals that incorporate, well, animals. I would have guessed, right? We sometimes eat animals. And one in particular, the simmering pheasant, or the pheasant stew, whatever it's called again, is gonna be a meal that we'll be cooking quite a lot during the later stages of the run. We actually pick up the recipe right here, the hot pot cuisine. Because what the simmering pheasant stew allows us to do is it gives us a buff that decreases the encounter rate. And since we are getting a lot of encounters at the moment, like holy hell, I don't think I've seen this many here before, like ever. It's a very nice passive buff to have. It's only like 5 to 10% or something, but it absolutely adds up over the course of the run. However, in order to cook the simmering pheasant, we obviously need some pheasants in the first place, so I kinda want to get some of those instead of all these samurai. I swear to God, I have never fought this many samurai, like ever, during a single run. And I mean over the course of the whole run, as I have in this single area right now. What the hell? Game is showing off, I suppose. Kind of afraid to look at the time already. But anyway, we made it to Shinano. Only one more area to go until we have reached Hida, where we will face the boss of the fourth act.
You actually want to know what the timer's at right now?
Nope, nope, don't tell me.
Alright, that shall remain a mystery.
I'm just hoping I can save a little bit of time during the later chapters. Alright, we are closing in on the next merchant. Once we get to the merchant, we will buy some more cabbages and some pheasants, and then we will cook us some warm and nice simmering pheasant stew. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. So we put all our money into that. Oh boy, I actually have 9 smoke bombs? What? I should have totally used one earlier. So here we go. Yummy, 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 yummy. Now we have the ninja arts passive buff that, as I explained just a little bit ago, makes it so that we get fewer random encounters. Having 9 smoke bombs here is actually kind of bad because I would have been able to pick up another one here. And since you never can have more than 9 items at once, I basically wasted that pickup. Thinking about it, I think I'm just taking way more encounters here that I necessarily need to, but that makes the money route very lenient, so... Well, I guess we'll see once we get to the next area. Now, speaking of encounters, there are actually 2 types of encounters you can get in the game. One are your normal standard close screen encounters, right? Which are set up in the way that you have to defeat all the enemies before you're able to progress any further. However, there are also the roaming encounters like this one. This one will happen whenever you actually get into a screen, and there will be enemies on screen, obviously. However, you are not forced to actually go and defeat the enemies. You can basically just leave the area. So whenever we are in a free-from encounter, so to speak, just continue on. There's no reason to fight the enemies. And I like this one. I mean, the enemies are a little bit of a hassle while you are climbing these mountains, but you just don't have to fight them. However, this, again, is a closed encounter, so we have to kill the enemies in order to progress. And we actually got a bronze mirror, which is pretty nice. But I don't think I have to buy anymore, so sadly this drop came at just a little bit too late. Because if you think about it, a bronze mirror that lets us teleport only costs like 30 mon, whereas a smoke bomb costs 80. Like, the smoke bombs are really one of the most expensive items in the game. Another bronze mirror. Okay, wow. That is unheard of. But yeah, I guess for now, just, enjoy the music, enjoy the scenery while we climb this mountain to its immediate apex. That was rude. Another thing you might notice is when we get into a fight, the music actually picks up a little bit. So there are basically two soundtracks for each and every area. One where you're just roaming around, and another one when you are in a fight, which is like a really nice touch because it definitely doesn't break the immersion that you're going through. But whenever you get into a fight, you can like hear all the percussions kick in and stuff like that. So it's a really nice touch. Makes it just really enjoyable to just roam the countryside here. I'm actually gonna use the smoke bomb because, come on, we're getting so many encounters here, it's ridiculous.
I mean, hey, I don't mind listening to the percussion. I'm a percussionist myself, so I'm having a great time over here every time you get into a battle.
Yeah, the sound is just great. It's just like such a shame that we lose so much time going through these encounters. You don't really get to enjoy them. Anyway, we are on to the fourth boss fight of the game, which will be against Bunniestbunrena. And he is a bit of a curious case because for the first, he basically has three phases that we have to go through. The first phase is we will only ever fight his foot because he is so large. In the second phase, we will climb his leg to be able to fight against him on more even ground. And then in the third phase, he will actually show us his true form. So that's his foot, and he's immediately gonna make me look stupid by just smashing the ground like this. So we are getting him. Oh god, he's gonna kick. Okay. Giving him a little bit of a foot massage here. Don't get stumped. Okay, health bars depleted, so we can now climb his foot to get on top. And what will happen now is you could go ahead and attack his hand, but you'd rather just attack these boomerang items to ricochet them against his head. Because not only does it deal good damage, but if you were to start attacking his hand, he would send out even more projectiles that you wouldn't be able to reflect back at him and do all sorts of crazy other attacks. So it's really just a little bit safer if you just, stay in one area and reflect these back at him. However, he's giving me a bit of a bad pattern here by not shooting out many boomerangs. Mostly trying to hit me with his hand. But there we go, and now we are on the third phase. This is actually his true form. Everything else you see me fight so far is just an illusion. However, you might notice he still has a lot of health left, so I'm just trying to nearly get him down to no health left on this bar, because after a while he will transform back into his other form, However, when we get a health bar switch, he will drop his foot down. So I'm just gonna use my special technique here that drops the health bar down, and we are immediately back up, because this fight is way more this phase of the fight is way more manageable than fighting his foot over again, because as you saw, depending on which attacks he does, that phase can just take a long while to get through. So we just rather, you know, play a round of catch the boomerang with him than having to massage his feet anymore. So once we deplete this health bar, he will be back to his true form, and this is the last phase of the fight, so we just can't kill him in earnest now. And there we go, that was the fourth boss. Well, like I said before, the only reason we came to this mountain in the first place was to circumvent the monks blocking the road. And now that we have traversed the mountain, we can actually continue on our way down the other side. And make our way over to where the soul-swapping blade is being held. Hopefully. Again, we're gonna cook more stew. Over the flames of perdition, and we are on our way. While we are just traversing the countryside here, Rena, if you have anything more to plug, wonderful opportunity.
Well, I mean, I've always got stuff to plug if you want me to. Don't worry. There's no shortage of reads to do.
Sounds good.
Unfortunately, none of them appear to be donations, which is something that most certainly needs to be changed, my friends.
Come on, people, I want some haikus in here.
Right? I was getting excited for the haikus. So, we are also supported quite nicely by Team 17. They're an independent indie developer and publisher, and they've kindly provided us with our awesome grand prize. They recently announced their brand new Metroidvania, The Night Witch, coming to Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch later this year. Visit their website at team17.com and check out their full roster of indie games. Of course, if you do want that big grand prize, that will be a $30 donation. Though, if you're looking for some Team 17 prizes that aren't as pricey, we have some $5, $10, and $15 prizes that fall under those categories as well. So you're always getting a little bit of something every time you donate, even if it's just $5. And just a personal question, how in-depth is the cooking system? We've seen a little bit of it, but how deep does the rabbit hole go?
There isn't a lot to it mechanically. You just need the necessary ingredients and the recipe, and you are basically good to go. However, not only can you cook yourself, you can also go to a restaurant and just eat the food there. So there are even more recipe or even more different kind of food that you can get at the restaurants. And it's all just very gorgeous looking. Like every time you see the food in the game, or in any Vanillaware game for that matter, I always get hungry. It's just something that is happening. Because the animation and just the texture of it just looks so yummy. Also, another thing that I forgot to mention is not only do we get buffs from the food items, but we also gain some souls out of that. Or rather, spirit, sorry. So there are two main currencies apart from money, which are souls, which are these, green floaty things that you get from defeating enemies, and they're sometimes around the countryside. But spirit you get exclusively by eating food, and you need both soul and spirit to forge new blades. So, I'm not eating this food just for fun or just for the buffs. I also need the currency tied to the food to be able to forge new blades at the moments that I actually need them. And of course, depending on which food you eat or cook, you get different amounts of soul and or spirit, where the later foods obviously give you more spirit and souls than the earlier food items. Okay, we now made it to this castle, and it is a big one. Like, holy hell, just look at the background there. The people living here are pretty wealthy, I want to say. Which, incidentally, are Yukinojo's clan. So we are, hopefully, able to get our grubby little hands on the soul-swapping plate in just a little bit here. And with that, our quest would be over, right?
Yeah, for sure. Coming about in, like, oh wow. That's quite fast.
Yeah, this is well under estimate, right? This is a proper speed of the game.
Oh wow, perfect.
Go through it so fast that even you don't know how fast you go.
Wow, I'm so sad it's ending so quickly.
Well, that's the nature of speedrunning a game, I suppose. But yeah, first of all, we have obviously to make our way to the top of the castle, before we are able to get the sword. So let's hope that we don't get into too many encounters, because, well, here we go. It's just some monks who can quickly get rid of these. If they decide to actually stay on screen, that is. I guess that guy was just a little bit afraid of us. Okay, we're nearly there. 3 more rooms, I think. Didn't get an encounter here, that's good. There we go. Yeah, not gonna fight you guys, sorry. You just take way too long. You have way too much health. Okay. Out. Cook more cabbage stew. Forge a new blade. Equip said blade. And we are good for, well, the next boss fight. Because as it turns out, these fine men here tell us that, hey, the blade is actually in the storage room. It's not up here, so why don't you go check that out? However, before we have the opportunity to do so, some demons will attack the castle. So we have to deal with those first. And let it be known that I hate this boss fight. Like, personally, I think it's one of the worst ones in the game, because this guy can just absolutely wreck you if you let him. Because if he hits you with his paws, that deals a lot of damage. You can basically break your sword in 2 strikes with that. And since we have the attack power glitch going on, I do not want to switch my blades out, because that will get rid of it. So I have to be really careful about what he does. Instead, what we want to do is attack him a little bit, wait for him to curl up into this ball here, and he will do one of 2 things then. One is he will just bombard you with projectiles like he just did, or he will just try to rush at you, which is more preferable because it's the quicker attack. But yeah, we always want to see him curl up into that ball, because it's just a lot safer for me, because he won't try and strike me. So just nimbly dodge that. It's really not all that hard to do, just lead him on a little bit every time. And just wait for him to calm down. So I'm gonna do something else, buddy. Ah, there you go, now he'll rush at me. And then he is stunned for a short while, so you can just get some attacks in. And this pattern will basically continue until he's dead.
Oh wow, you weren't kidding about endurance tests.
Yep.
Well, in the meantime, are there any version differences? This game's called Muramasa Rebirth, which, as far as I know, that's a rename.
Yes,
Is there any difference between
the game
this
was
and the
called
Wii version?
Muramasa the Demon Blade on the Wii originally. The only differences between the versions are that some of the items have been renamed. Like on the Wii version, they still had their Japanese names, just written in proper English, I want to say. So in Romanji instead of kanji or katakana. So they actually have, well, normal sounding names for English speakers now. And the script itself was just retranslated just a little bit to make it more faithful to the original Japanese script. Other than that, the gameplay and everything else is basically the same from the original. Exactly, there's one more difference because the Rebirth version actually has some DLC chapters added onto that. So those don't continue the main story. Instead, each DLC focuses on a completely new character. And they're just really fun side stories to go through, because you see a little bit more of the world just from different perspectives, so to speak. And they're all very short, like speedruns of the DLC chapters take like between 20 to 30 minutes each. So, it's about a third of the time of this run. Okay, we are nearly done with our buddy Nue over here. 1 or 2 more attacks, and that is that. Okay. So, if you guys remember, we came here to retrieve this particular soul swapping blade, but as it turns out, by the attack of the demons just now, they actually ripped the storehouse where the sword was stored into hell itself. So, well, I guess we are just out of luck and have to enter hell now to go ahead and retrieve that blade. And I'm not even kidding when I say that. We will go to hell now. That is just how determined we are.
Oh, well, what are you waiting for? Go to hell!
I mean, how hard can it be, right? It's like right around the corner. Okay, forging a new blade here. Oh, right. Forging this one. And one quick. Alright. Now the tricky thing is when you are navigating this sword tree, skill tree, whatever you hell want to call it, when you forge your swords. The tricky part is you don't see the name of the blade until you have actually forged it. So the only way to identify if you're actually forging the right sword or not is if you have a look at either the requirements to wield or forge it, or how much attack power it has. So that makes forging the right blade a little bit finicky if you don't know your way around that. So if you accidentally end up at the wrong branch of the smithing tree, well, you could be in a little bit of trouble, because good luck finding your way back to the right blade that you want to forge. Like I said, there are 108 different swords in that tree. That is a lot of swords that you can have. Now coming up is Omi. Now Omi is, in my opinion, the worst region in the whole game. I absolutely do not like it. And why? Not only are the enemy encounters there not exactly great, like you can run into very configurations of very bad enemy configurations, leave it at that. But also the arenas themselves are not to your favor. Like you always fight on these trees, and it's sometimes really hard to differentiate, okay, which of these trees are actually in the foreground, which are in the background, and there are just a lot of different platforms and stuff, and it's just a mess fighting enemies in this area. Speaking of a mess, I actually wanted, obviously, to cook the simmering pheasant instead of the cabbage stews, so we actually have our buff going that decreases the rate of enemy encounters. Oh well, we'll get through eventually. Also, we are now in the 6th chapter of the game, and once we actually manage to go to hell, spoilers, that is the part where I absolutely need to have my smoke bombs ready, because from that point onward we are able to encounter the big Oni enemies, and like I said before earlier, I absolutely do not want to have to fight those. Like if I don't have a smoke bomb ready, I am in for a world of pain. And I don't like pain. I may be a little bit masochistic, but not that much. Not when it comes to time, at least, I guess. Okay, just making our way through this area, fighting a few Kappa along the way. Now, these enemies can also be a little bit of a pain because they can just dive down into the water beneath us and just stay there for a while until they decide to come back up again. And obviously during that time you can't attack them, so you can just lose quite a bit of time with that again. Actually, like, this whole game is just centered around you losing time sometimes. Another thing that I haven't talked about is the Yai attack. So once again, you see the 3 weapons that I've equipped in the top center of the screen. Now, occasionally you will see a white outline around those icons. And when that outline is there, whenever I switch my blade, then I will do an Yai attack which hits every enemy on the screen, and it immediately breaks the samurai's blades, which is pretty nice. However, it takes a while for it to replenish by itself, so you know, after just waiting a little bit of time, you will have it going again. Alternatively, you can get it back by collecting souls from enemies or from the environment. So cooking the simmered pheasant here and now, because I do want to reduce my enemy encounter rate, and obviously as soon as I cook that, we will get an encounter, because that is just how this works, right? Now I do not want to use my smoke bombs here, because, well, you will see in just a moment. So remember, we are trying to go to hell, right? To retrieve that sword. That is still our main objective at the moment. What are all these encounters? Seriously. I don't think I've ever had this many battles in this area.
They're just really eager to show off the fun combat for the wonderful audience.
And I guess they just want to prolong the run, so you guys have more time to donate some haikus. You know.
True, and look at the pretty art.
We're still doing that. So this part of town looks a little bit run down, as you can tell. You know, we have all these green ominous lights going on, and you know, the area isn't looking so pretty. So what are we gonna do? We are just gonna go ahead and drop down this well right here. It's a pretty long well. And now we are in hell. So all it takes for us to go to hell is by dropping down a well. Think about that for a moment. So I guess what I'm trying to say is don't go spelunking in wells, because you could end up in hell. But yeah, obviously, you know, this is hell. I guess the area speaks for itself. And this is where we now can encounter these big Oni enemies. And whenever I know that I'm going to encounter one, I'm immediately going to drop a smoke bomb and try to get out of that encounter. Because these guys are basically the beefiest enemies in the game. They have a lot of health, they deal a lot of damage, they are not fun, you do not want to fight them. I mean, you do maybe want to fight them in a casual run of the game, but definitely not in a speedrun. I mean, they can break your blades in like 1 to 2 hits. They deal a lot of damage to your health. They're just all around not fun. Like, they are basically bosses in disguise in a way. And we've seen how long it takes me to kill these bosses. So you at least want a amount of 6 smoke bombs going into hell. I think we started with 7 or 8. So we should be good to go through this area. Obviously, I don't want to use up all of my smoke bombs, because we will have the same conundrum in the next chapter of the game, where we can also encounter these big enemies. So I want to save as many of my smoke bombs as I can for the next chapter, but again, it is completely up to RNG. I have no control over this. You can just basically pray that it works out. I think we had like 5 encounters so far, which is on the high end of the spectrum, not gonna lie. But we made it. So, once again, cooking cabbage stew. Equipping a better blade than we have. And we are off to the 6th boss. So for some reason, Jinkuro got preoccupied with something, so Momohime is actually inhabiting her body at the moment. And of course, being the sweet little girl that she is, she just goes ahead, walks up to these Onis and starts a conversation, because what else are you gonna do in hell as a frightened girl or something, right? You know, just talk to the big guy. He looks friendly. And he likes us so much that he's actually proceeding to eat us. Yeah, that's happening right now.
What a sound effect.
Luckily, Jinkuro comes in and, you know, we have now to get out of the big Oni's stomach. First and foremost. I'm actually gonna wait for him here to just spit me out again. We actually poisoned while we are inside his stomach, so we are constantly losing health, but it isn't too bad. So now he spits us out, and we are now fighting outside of him. Now the trick to this is to slide around his head to continuously stun him, because if you don't do that, he does this, where he gets angry and smashes up the place, so you have to hide behind these stone pillars to make him calm down again. So this is very finicky, it is very easy to just slide down from his head again. And then you actually want to get eaten again. So you can continue fighting inside his stomach. Let me do that, and we are outside again, and this pattern will basically repeat for... see, there we go. I accidentally slide it down. He is angry about that. I'm just gonna wait for him to calm down again. We're gonna go back on top of him and repeat the sliding. Now what makes this extra hard are these little Onis who will just go ahead and continuously pelter you with their sickles that they're throwing at you. Because the problem with these sickles is when you block them, you just slide around the place like uncontrollably, like huge distances. But since we want to stay in a specific spot to get eaten again, they can just really easily knock you out of that spot, and then you have to deal with the enraged big Oni again, which is bad. Also, while I'm on top of him, I actually can only hit his head, or rather, only his head has a damage box. So if I just hit his shoulder, nothing will happen. Or rather, I won't deal any damage. Okay. Yeah, these little Oni are just not making this go as smoothly as I would have hoped. Again, it's RNG where these little Onis show up, how many there are, etc, etc. It's all up to RNG. Just waiting a little bit here. Okay, and we are on to the last health bar. Getting on top of him again. Hopefully we won't get... So at this point you only want to slide to basically keep him stun locked for the rest of the health bar so he doesn't enrage. Come on, buddy. Fortunately, it didn't quite work out, so he enraged again. So the last health bar is the most... it's the hardest one to get through, because he will constantly enrage if you let him. Come on, buddy. I got no. Come on. Okay, there we go. Ooh, that was a bit of a rough fight. But yeah, our reward for this right here is that we actually meet a character from a little bit before. So now we're gonna talk to some more people, like this corpse and this corpse, but also this.
I guess
guy.
it is Hal.
This was the guy that we met at the end of chapter 5, if you remember. And he actually told us, hey, you know what, I'm sorry, we never actually had that sword that you were looking for. So, you know, this was all a wild goose chase. There was actually no reason for us to go to hell anyway. So that's great. So the question is now, what are we going to do? Because Momohime's body is decaying, because Jinkuro is constantly, you know, inhabiting her body. So whatever could we do? Well, first of all, we're going to cook some more cabbage stew. That helps. And then we now have the enlightened idea, hey, we will just go to heaven and become an evil demigod. Because if we are a demigod, we are invincible, right? We are undying. We can't die, because gods don't die naturally. So that sounds like a good plan. So now that we've been to hell, let's go to heaven. How hard can that be? I mean, hell was just around the well. Haha.
I think they might be onto something, actually. I never considered just becoming a god.
Right?
That's some good advice.
I mean, how hard can that be, right? I mean, you just have to find an entrance to heaven and you're basically good to go. As far as I can tell from this game story. Maybe it just has to do with the fact that this game is set in Japan or something. You know, it's just all mystical and stuff, where something like that can actually happen. However, we are now in the penultimate chapter of the game, chapter 7, and this is the part where the Uchimori whetstones are starting to appear, and it is critically important that I go ahead and pick those up. If I don't, this run, well, it's still finishable, but it will be way harder. Because, like I explained earlier, the whetstones are basically items with which you can replenish your sword's durability bar. However, the Uchimori whetstones are a little bit peculiar in that, as they don't actually repair your swords, but rather they make it so that the durability doesn't even deplete in the first place. So you can kind of think of them as a form of a protective barrier around your swords, if you will. And the nice thing about that, what it basically allows us to do, is to be able to just go ahead and spam the ever-living crap out of our special abilities. And that is critically important for the final boss of the run. So making another tactical save here. And then we are on our way again. So in total, we can pick up a total of 5 of these Uchimori whetstones. For the final boss, I need between, let's say 3 of them. So, you know, I don't necessarily have to pick up all of them, but for safety reasons, and like I said, they are just along the way, so why not pick them up in the first place? On higher difficulties, obviously, you would need more of those, but, yeah. This is another smoke bomb, so we're up to 4. Again, since we can encounter the big Oni enemies in the boss area of this chapter, I want to have at least 6 smoke bombs before we go in there, so I need to buy at least 2 more at the next merchant. But yeah, while we are making our way over to heaven, why not pluck something more, Rena?
Oh, I would love to. So, we still haven't seen any donations yet, for shame. But, you know, if you were to donate, we do have the incentives still going. Of course, Superliminal is what's coming immediately up next, the Glitch Exhibition. We did get an additional $10, so we're $150 off. So I'm holding out. I'm hanging on a prayer out here for that Glitch Exhibition. But if that doesn't strike your fancy somehow, so far no money has been tossed towards the World Next Door's bid war, Forgive or Forget. I don't quite know what it's about. The description is, do we forgive Lisa or not? So, if you are so inclined, you may decide the fate of Lisa with, I'd say about $5. Yeah, I'd say that's worth it.
Alright, sounds good. Oh look, there's actually a pheasant. That is how they look out in the wild. So since I just cooked some pheasant, or simmering pheasant, I immediately got at least one of those back, which is pretty nice. Even though I probably don't need any more because I actually had a lot of money because we took so many fights along the way that I'm probably good for the rest of the game from now on, so I'm not too concerned about that anymore. I mean, I would like to have another smoke bomb or two, but we should be good here. Getting rid of these monks. And we are off to the boss area of the second to last act of the game. And fighting here will in this area we will fight maybe one of the worst bosses in the game, I want to say, simply because the fight can go either very, very quickly or you don't get the stun lock and it will take forever. So, you know, let's start on a prayer that we can actually go ahead and stunlock Raijin until she's dead. Because otherwise we might have some dodging to do. But first of all, you know, we are still on Earth, so to speak. We're not in heaven just yet. But it will only take us a moment more. But we can do that because apparently all you have to do is find this line of Torii gates right here. Oh, sorry, this is on the next screen. You know, this one. Go through all of these and boom, we are in heaven. Easy, right? Why hasn't anybody else done that? Also, just as an aside, to see how many encounters I have had during this run, I am close to level 20 at the moment, right? I'm level 19 and 3/4 or something, if I read that correctly. I want to be level 20 at the end of this run, and we still have a whole act to go through. Yeah. We've had a lot of encounters. A lot. Oh yeah, we are just, you know, climbing ever higher in heaven here. And while we do that, I guess we have time for some more plugs.
All the plugs keep coming, though I don't have too much more to plug. We've kind of gone over quite a bit. There's been a nice amount of downtime. Instead, I will ask about the developers' other games. You've brought them up a few times. I'm curious, are they all similar to this?
Basically, yeah. I think the closest to this is gonna be Odin's Sphere, which is basically the same, you know, 2D shenanigan thing. Dragon's Crown is more of a brawler, like Streets of Rage and stuff. And then 13 Sentinels Aegis Room is more like a strategy visual novel kind of deal. Which is a very interesting combination, but a very fun one too. Here we're gonna forge some more blades that we're gonna need for the boss fight that we're gonna do in just a moment. No, that's not the right sword. So we need budding roses, waning. Oh, you know what? I totally forgot to equip the Chaos Mask recently. That is probably why that one fight took so friggin' long. I forgot to equip the Chaos Mask. Anyway, so we are in front of the gates to heaven. But, you know, its guardians, Fujin and Raijin, won't let us pass that easily. And Raijin is gonna fight us. And like I said, either we get the stun lock, or this fight will take quite a while to get through. So let's see what's gonna be. Didn't get the hits. Okay, didn't get the stun lock. You know? Okay, got the stun. Good. So this is basically how this fight will go. You just wail on her while she's on the ground. You wait a little bit when she's getting up, do a sword break attack, and then use the special of your sword twice, and hope it hits both times, and that should immediately stun her again. And you basically just do this over and over again, hoping to keep her in the loop. There we go. Okay. She's broken out for good now. So we just have to go ahead and dodge her attacks, because obviously she is the goddess of lightning. Ah, come on, lady. That was unfair. Again? Ah, it's gonna do this stuff. Yeah, we just have to do a lot of dodging now. And obviously that loses quite a bit of time. Okay, got another stun, good. Wasn't enough room there. Another problem with this weapon art from this weapon is just really you can only use it while you are on the ground, and it will hit both sides of the enemy. But since this is a flying enemy and you don't have a lot of platforms to work with, it is really finicky to hit her with it if you aren't on the ground. And since she likes to fly around so much, it's like really hard to consistently hit her with that weapon art in order to get that stun lock going. I mean, all in all, this wasn't a bad fight, but it was a pretty long one. Anyway, even though we have defeated Raijin, Fujin still forbids us from entering heaven, so we are just out of luck with our options of prolonging our life here, because, once again, time is running out. We haven't been able to recover our sword, we haven't been able to retrieve it from hell, we haven't been able to become an evil demigod in heaven, so what really else is there to do? Well, it turns out that Yuki Nojo actually knows of another way, or I think it's Kongiku, sorry, knows of another way into heaven by climbing yet another mountain and making our way through a temple in order to have a second entrance into heaven. And for that, we have to climb Mount Kongo. And if you guys have played Sekiro, you might actually know the area that we're going to next, because it is the same temple that you are visiting in that game. Now, obviously, this game was before Sekiro, so don't get any of ideas of Muramasa copying Sekiro. If at all, it's the other way around. Just putting that out there already. Also, we are level 21. That is, like, way too high. Like I said, you want to finish the game at about level 20. I am completely over-leveled for this speedrun. I guess that is just something that can happen sometimes. Also, I want my cabbage too. So yeah, this is the final act of the game. These are the final areas that we're going to go through, and since this is the final act, it obviously has the longest final dungeon. Like, holy hell, it's so long. Like, I don't know if you've been keeping count, but all of the other quote-unquote dungeons or boss areas or whatever you want to call them, they have about, well, let's say 10 screens to go through. The the last dungeon, that temple that we're going to, has a 33. So it's like 3 times as large as the other dungeons, which is insane. Another thing that is pretty insane is the amount of encounters that I'm still encountering here. I mean, I do have a few smoke bombs, but I kinda want to save some of them for the temple. Also, I'm just saying the temple because I totally forget its name. It's like a really complicated one if you're not Japanese, I think. It has a lot of vowels and stuff. Okay, we are gonna buy a couple more smoke bombs. I don't think I need any more pheasants. I should have more than enough. But I'm just gonna buy them for good conscience. Also, I just really love this song. It's great. I mean, the whole soundtrack is great. Gonna lie. Even if you're not into speedrunning or if you don't want to speedrun this game, simply get it to look at its art and hear its music. Because the game is just gorgeous. Like, this is just, you know, timeless art that you can just look at again and again and again. Like I said, this game is, considering its original release, 13 years old at this point. And I wager it's still looking better than a lot of other games out there. Okay, that's definitely an encounter that I want to run from. Because this area is not good to fight in, especially against flying enemies. And with that, we are off into the final area of the game. The Shingon-Renga Main Temple. Exactly, that is the name of it. Now, don't worry, we won't be fighting any, what was it, centipedes or something like that in here. Again, this is not Sekiro, even though it is the same temple. They're having a whole different problem this time around. But first of all, we actually have to get there. And I absolutely do not want to fight Silver Ninjas. Like, Silver Ninjas are basically the worst variant of ninjas, because they have the most health, they have a wide variety of damaging attacks, and most importantly, their bodies explode when they die. And that can instantly break your sword. And even though that is not that bad on Legend difficulty, which we are playing now, it instantly kills you on Fury difficulty, where you only have 1 HP because your sword breaks. And since I'm mostly playing on Fury difficulty, I have an innate fear of those ninjas from that. But yeah, again, this is a very long temple. We are nearing the end of the game, so Rena, pluck your heart out.
Certainly. I would love to. Indiethon is supported by Chucklefish Games. Chucklefish is an independent game developer and publisher based in London, UK. With a love of charming pixel art and a drive to support and create amazing games. They've published countless classic indie games such as Starbound, Stardew Valley, Time Spinner, as well as upcoming games Locomotive and Wild Frost. They've graciously provided us with many cool prizes. Visit their website at www.chucklefish.org for more information on their awesome selection of games. Also, wow, this game looks super duper pretty. Oh my gosh.
To be fair, the art was definitely the thing that drove me to this game in the first place. It was actually the reason why I got a Wii in the first place back in the day, because I just wanted to play this game. Now, I just saw it and I was like, okay, I need this in my life right now, right then. Which is pretty interesting because I didn't play Odin's Sphere before, which actually released, I think, in 2005, if I'm not mistaken. I had very little interest in that game. But Muramasa just, hello, basically won me over as a fan of Vanillaware, the developers. Because all of their games are just a joy to look at. The art is just unmatched like anywhere else. I think I have to backpedal a little bit on that comment, because there is a new developer in town called Artisan Studios, and I think it's the first game that they actually released, if I'm not completely mistaken, is Astria Ascending. It is basically a traditional JRPG, I want to say. It's another game that I speedrun occasionally. I actually ran it during the last Indiethon, if you want to have a look at that. And it also has very gorgeous art. Like, it is basically on par with this one, I want to say. And again, the art was what drew me to that game in the first place too. But it helps that all of these games are actually really, really good. So, you know, they're not only pretty to look at, they also play well, they control well, they're just a choice to play. Which is also why I speedrun them. Huh, who would have thought that? Also, we are very close to level 23. And once again, you normally want to finish the game at around level 20. Because you need level 20 to equip the quote-unquote best sword that we can get in the run, the Unrepentant Blade. So yeah, every level above 20 is basically a waste, and I'm level 23. I don't think I've ever been this high of a level at the end of a run. So yeah, that should tell you a lot about how speedruns in this game can go in relation to RNG. I think I should be good to just skip all of the rest of the encounters that we're gonna get. Oh. You know what? I'm just gonna start skipping encounters here. Because we are slowly getting to the end of this temple. It's a lot of climbing. But we are getting there. Maybe I can already start talking about the last boss in the game. The last boss is very interesting. It's basically a huge statue that we have to break. However, it has like two, I don't know, demigods or something protecting it. And every time we quote-unquote kill one of those demigods, a protective barrier around one of the parts of the statue is going to break down. So first of all, we have to defeat one of these guardians, then a barrier around the knee will break. We defeat the other guardian, the barrier around the second knee will break. Then we have to defeat both at the same time to disable the barrier on the stomach. And then the same thing will repeat with the hands and the head. And what we're going to do is we are going to use our Uchimonji whetstones so that the durability of our weapon won't decrease. And with that, then we are just sorry. And once we use the whetstone, we're just going to spam the living hell out of our weapon art to just kill the guardians and destroy the barrier. Okay, and here we basically are. So we're gonna cook one more time. Let me go to an item shortcut, that is what I was looking for. And actually equip the Uchimori whetstones, and just for good measure, I'm gonna equip some more as well. Because like I said, the Uchimori whetstones do not repair your weapon. They only make it so that it doesn't deplete, but if you have no gauge in the first place, you actually cannot spam your weapon arts. You have to use another whetstone to actually repair it beforehand. Also, here's Yudinori, our husband-to-be, and he actually tells us, hey, that soul-swapping blade that we've been searching for the whole game. Well, I had it all along, I just didn't give it to you. What an asshole. So there it is. That is the blade that we were looking for, and now we have to fight the last boss in order to get it. So we're just gonna use the stone and start spamming the Chaos Roar. The Uchimori whetstone holds for about 15 seconds or so. So after that time, I will just use another one and happily continue spamming. Also get ready on time. Time will be when the result screen of the fight comes up. Should be really close now. So get ready. I think we need to do this once more. Okay, we can destroy the head now. Okay, get ready on time. And... time! That's it. That is the run. So, what is our reward for that? Well, we weren't able to get the blade. Jinkuro actually sacrifices himself in order to save Momohime because she was close to dying. So his soul is now trapped in hell, and Momohime decides to not marry Yorinoji. I mean, why would she? He betrayed her like every step along the way, and instead she decides to become a nun to pray for Jinkuro's soul so that he might return from hell at one point. again, that is only the first ending of the game. There are 2 more for Momohime, and then of course 3 endings for Kitsune if you are playing as him. So there's a lot more to this game than just this. So yeah, if you enjoy this, definitely go ahead and get this game. It is wonderful, absolutely. It is a blast to play, especially if you're just playing it casually the first time through. You're just flabbergasted with everything you see. And what was the time actually?
Your time was 1:32:08.
Well, it's actually not that bad. It's only like about 2 minutes or 1.5 minutes off my PB. I still haven't been able to breach the 1:30 barrier. I'm always like closely going over that. So, you know, it has been bugging me for a little while, but I am determined to get that eventually in the near future, hopefully.
I believe.
But yeah, anyway, that is a run in the nutshell. This was Muramasa Rebirth. Like, you know, if you enjoyed this game, definitely pick it up, start speedrunning it. Sadly, there is no Discord because very few people actually speedrun this game. It is a little bit of a, you know, obscure title, but definitely go to the speedrun.com leaderboards and go to the forum, and we are happy to help you out if you have any questions about that. And with that, that is all from me. So, yeah. Enjoy Indiethon. Good luck to the rest of the runners that are still coming up. This marathon is still far from over. We have still like at least 10 more hours or so of runs planned for you guys. So stick around, keep donating to Puppies Behind Bars, and I guess I will see you soon, everybody. Until then, bye-bye.
Absolutely wonderful. You might be waving there as I do my outro. I'm sorry.
I will just keep waving. I am determined to do this.
Perfect. So, wow, what a fantastic game that I've had my eyes opened up to. I would make the joke about putting it on my Steam wish list, but I think it's just going on my normal wish list. So, we will be moving swiftly on. We are going to be moving on from one visual spectacle to another. While Muramasa has some really beautiful art, we're going to be moving on to Superliminal with its very trippy aesthetics. It's not something you're going to want to miss. Stick around.